What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to preview January for gaming, talk about some of the big games that I myself am interested in, kind of pitch it to you or just kind of throw it out there, and also see what you guys are into. But a really big month this year does not start slow in the slightest. In fact, by March or April, we should have several Game of the Year nominees or candidates at that time, and January is no slouch either. So let's go through some games that I'm looking forward to. Okay, so first up, we have the Persona games, Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden, pretty much coming to modern-day consoles, right? All the Xboxes, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, PC, all that stuff. You're going to be able to finally play these games beyond just the small little places you could in the past, and I'm very, very excited. Now, Persona 4 Golden was actually my gateway, my entryway, I should say, into the Persona franchise. Love that game to death, but I haven't actually gone all the way through it. And then for Persona 3, as I just said with 4, I never played 3 because that 4 was the first time I got in. So I am really looking forward to it. Kind of some sneaky launches because obviously these games are not short. For those that maybe don't know the Persona franchise, these are long. These are like 70 to 90 hour on a slow day, or if you've rushed through them. That's how long these games can be. So you get kind of two stealth releases, both on the same day, both on January 19th, and then kind of right after that we get the rest of the games. But if you're saying, hey, well, there's not much for me to play until Hogwarts or Jedi Survivor or whatever, well, you got two Persona games now that you can jump into fresh and lose about 200 hours or so of your life to. But then actually the day after, for you Nintendo Switch fans, and I will be one of them as well, is Fire Emblem Engage. So the long rumor right with this game is that it was done a long time ago. Nintendo kind of just put it on the back burner and said, let's just wait on it. But this game has been done for a while, and the game looks awesome. It seems like a very faithful Fire Emblem game. Three Houses is actually the very first one that I'm showing my true colors when it comes to the Persona franchise and Fire Emblem, but I don't hide it. I'm excited for this one. Three Houses I actually got much later than when it released. I got it like a few years actually later, but I love it. I love the tactical JRPG fighting style. I like even just the talking to companions and getting all that stuff sorted outside of the battlefield. This game seems a lot more like it's a lot of the fighting. That's like the majority of the game, which is fine by me because again I really liked it. But this again, within 2 days you get 200 hours of Persona, and then you get a Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Engage, on the Switch. So again, starting out the year pretty hot there. And then 4 days later, we get a pretty controversial one in Forspoken. So the reason I say controversial is just, maybe not even controversial, just split, right? I think there's a lot of people that are excited for it. I think there's also then people that defend it simply because of the PlayStation exclusivity. I think there's then people that hate it because of the PlayStation exclusivity. And I think there's people that hate it in general, and there's people in the middle. There's a lot of different camps set up for Forspoken. For me, right down the middle. It never stood out to me as a game that looks phenomenal. There has always been kind of like red flags, like issues that have been, arisen that we've seen just in trailers or gameplay or whatever. But at the same time, for the gameplay, specifically the elemental powers, and even from the demo, when I played the demo, I liked the movement generally, and then also the actual, attacks and defenses against different enemies. I think that's this game's bread and butter. We'll see how it does the open world, if it feels alive, if it feels like there's stuff in it. The story, obviously, the characters, a lot of that stuff, at least the story and characters, you couldn't really gauge from the demo. And I don't really know if you can gauge it from the trailers we've had either, right? So this is going to be a tough one, or an interesting one, let's say. It's definitely, besides like Nintendo Switch and then re-releasing Persona games, right? In terms of, I guess, well, this is just PlayStation, but this is a really big game. And it's, we'll see if it turns out to kind of be a colossal failure. Maybe it surprises people. Maybe it's rather good. I'm personally going to get it, but obviously it's another big game that releases in January. Then on the 27th, we have the Dead Space remake. I think a bit more safe of a game than Forspoken in terms of like a split decision. I think this game overall has always looked rather good. The only controversy this game has probably run into is having Isaac's voice, right? Isaac never talked in the first game. Now he will. When do you place that? When do you pull away from that? But besides that, I mean, and I've said this actually before, if you were to tell somebody that this game released in 2023 and there was no original Dead Space, that this was remade, I think a lot of people would believe you because this game looks outstanding. Visually, from the lighting, the sound, audio, but, in every way, honestly, this is what I would consider a very good, at least right now, surface level remake. We'll see when we actually get to play the game, but I honestly would hope and want this to be one of the better remakes that have ever come out, and also a very good game that you're starting with, right? This is not like a subpar, game that you're remaking for modern audiences. This is a game that's one of the best horror games and kind of defined the genre from that point on. Lots of games try to copy it. This is a pretty important game to gamers, so hopefully they do it justice. So then we have two games to end the month, actually on the last day of the month, on January 31st. You have Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, and you also have SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake. So starting with Age of Empires, I'm a fan of the genre. I'm generally a fan of Age of Empires. I just never play these games, and I think I've said this before, for games like even 2 Point Campus or 2 Point Hospital, back in the day. Like, I love these games. Those are a little bit different, but these kind of games, sim games, basically, I love them so much, but I rarely play them. I just don't play them enough. So this game, coming as a definitive edition and coming to console, my primary play, I know like PC, dominant race, master race, I get all that. But coming to console, a place I feel a little bit better, or more at home with, I honestly feel like I'm going to give it a try. And I know I'm going to like it. That's the thing. I know I'm going to like this game. Will I play this game beyond like 5 to 10 hours? That is the big question for me. And then SpongeBob, oh man. I'm really excited. If I were to rank these, SpongeBob, shockingly, would probably be number 2. I think Dead Space would probably be number 1, and then SpongeBob would be number 2. And you get them, 4 days apart, so that's just fantastic. But no, I love Battle for Bikini Bottom originally. I love Rehydrate. I thought that was a very faithful, remake. And this is the prototype for when you remake games, right? You talk about Dead Space remake. SpongeBob, they gave it to, a new studio, Purple Lamp, I believe is their name. They made Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. You get familiar with the brand. You get familiar with how these games work. And then what do? You make your own game. They remade one. They did a very good, faithful remake. And then what do you do after that? You make a new one. Now, this game is very similar to Rehydrate. I think there's probably a lot of reused things going on here. Pretty quick turnaround time as well, I believe. Battle for Bikini Bottom, I want to say that was like June of 2020. I don't think it was that long, so it's not even been 3 years. Pretty quick turnaround from going to a remake to then making a brand new game. So cutting corners, I don't know. I'm not trying to diss the game, because ultimately the game looks fun. It's a new game, new story, new premise. A lot of the things, again, I do think are going to be similar. It could be like a spiritual successor to Battle. It could be like a Battle for Bikini Bottom 2, and you wouldn't really know it, right? I guess except for the name and the premise of the story. But the game looks awesome. I'm excited to play with my daughter. I know she's really pumped. She asks me every couple of weeks, hey, when does that SpongeBob game come out? And I say, end of January. We're almost there. And there you go. Again, I personally think, honestly, a little something for everybody. You got Persona, which is definitely not for everybody, but if you're into it, there's your 200 hours. Age of Empires, if you're into that, there's your hundreds of hours as well on console. Dead Space, you want an old, as in a game from 2008 or whenever the Dead Space came out. You want that. You want a horror game. There's that. You want a SpongeBob, a platformer, kind of kids game, but also not really anybody could play it. You got that. And then you have Forspoken. You got stuff for, I believe, every kind of person in the month of January. And again, it doesn't slow down. February, March are also gigantic. We'll be doing these preview videos for those as well. And by the way, final thing, all of these games I will be covering to some extent, or I've already covered on the channel. I got Dead Space videos, I think that's already gone up and will. Forspoken, I'll be covering Persona a little bit, Age of Empires. So all these games I'll be covering to some extent on the channel, as I try to do with all of them. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I'll see you all on the next one.